everybody, and welcome back to another episode on the South Stand View. Just before we get into this one, as always, please make sure that you're smashing that like button. Please make sure that you're subscribing to the channel as well. Getting all your thoughts and opinions into the comments section and hitting that notification bell, because if you don't hit the notification bell, Mike, what does that make you?
You're a dirty Enzo LUFC loving Mackem, basically. That's what you are.
Correct. So
very apt with the theme of today, innit, Charlie, as well.
Oh,
very apt.
Absolutely. I think this is obviously, I know we've only done a few of these so far, but this is probably the most excited that I've been about doing one.
Yeah.
If you've not seen these types of content from us before, guys, it is where we go through Twitter, we go through like Instagram, TikTok, all social media, and we find your hot takes, your shit opinions, and as the title of the video suggests, all of your meltdowns as well. And as Mike said, this one is heavily Sunderland themed. Well, it's basically Sunderland themed. Let's be honest. But first of all, Mike, how are we, mate? All good?
I'm good, mate. I'm very good. And what, Thursday today? You know what? I'm still on a high from Monday, to be fair. Obviously, when I've been looking through social media and looking at all the content to add to this Meltdowns episode, it's just carried on the high spirits throughout the week. But what I will say is, if you're a Sunderland fan and you're watching this, I don't think it's going to be great.
I would probably turn off now.
I'll probably turn off now, because I know you Sunderland fans are very kind of butthurt at the moment. This is just going to make it worse, isn't it, Charlie?
Yeah, and you know, if we do speak out of turn in terms of Sunderland fans, then I do apologise. I'm sure that not all of you are as weird and deluded as these people that we're about to speak about. But sorry, but these are the people that are just representing your fan base at the minute. It's
giving you a bad name, basically, isn't it, Charlie?
Yeah,
100%. These are the guys that are representing you at a club. So if I were you, I'd get them turfed out, Sunderland fans, because it's not looking good. It's not looking good at all.
Absolutely. Now, speaking of idiotic Sunderland fans, now this is just something that you simply don't do when you're half an hour into a game. I think Mike knows the screenshot that I'm about to pull up. I mean, fair enough. Isidore scored with what, half an hour gone? You know, they'll have been buzzing. They'll have been thinking, yes, you know, we're at Elland Road. We can maybe get something from this game now. And they'll have obviously been delighted. Now, I don't have a problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is people acting like this half an hour into a game. Now, I'm sure everybody has seen this bloke. If somebody can find his carer, please let us know. I mean, I won't say what I want to say about him and how he looks with those glasses on, because we may get cancelled.
I'd say it won't be topping me. It won't be topping my babysitting list, mate. That's all I'm going to say about this fella.
All we'll say on the matter.
That's all we'll say. And fair play, I didn't know Voldemort were a Sunderland fan, did you? I didn't know, expel it one Nilios. But yeah, you know, there's such thing as counting you.
He's noticed the cameras on him and he's taken his opportunity, hasn't he?
He's took it, and it has backfired in monumental style, hasn't it? Because he has gone viral. I've seen him on Twitter, I've seen him on TikTok, I've seen him on Facebook, everywhere. I've seen him everywhere. But surely you don't, he's peaked far too early there, hasn't he, Charlie? 1-0 up. Fair enough, you're enjoying the game, but don't put yourself in the firing line like that, because he's took some pelters, hasn't he, on social media.
Oh yeah, and and I'm sure there's been like Leeds fans that have done similar things, which is fair enough. I'm not deluded enough to just say that this is something Leeds fans just never do, and Leeds fans aren't like that. Of course we are, but in this scenario, I think we're allowed to poke fun at them, because the game obviously didn't end up going their way, did it? And I hope he had a nice journey home, and I hope that if he's watching this, hey pal,
unlucky mate,
unlucky.
I mean, I've done that a lot of times where I've kind of I've peaked a little bit too early, but it's
Oh,
usually.
yeah, I have. Yeah.
It's on social media, just firing a message out on or a little video on TikTok or
Quick tweet.
something on Twitter or quick tweet or something like that. But I've not done it on live TV, so he's had an absolute mare there, hasn't he?
He's had an absolute nightmare there.
So
but
1-0
like
to Voldemort.
Like I said, if anyone finds his carer, please let us know. But yeah, so
I'll send him back to Hogwarts. Right, okay,
yeah. So this one's actually a good one. This is a positive one.
It's a nice story, isn't it, Charlie?
It is a nice story. Now, for those of you who don't know, this guy who Strike's interacting with here, during the aftermath of that winning goal in the 95th minute, dislocated his shoulder, which I think is a good effort, in fairness, fair play.
That's proper limbs, isn't it? That's dislocation of limbs.
Literally, you could be losing a limb. Now, obviously, I think this was a bit tongue-in-cheek. I think he was just trying to have a joke with Pascal. But I think, by the looks of it, he's going to get himself a signed shirt out of it. So fair play to Pascal. And I think, just all jokes aside a minute, in terms of that, I think I don't know if you'll agree, but I feel like the fan base and the squad are a little bit more together this season than they were last season. Do you tend to agree with that?
Yeah, agree 100%. There's that togetherness at the moment, isn't there? And I think it's between the fans, between the players and the fans, and I think it's getting a little bit more with Farke as well. I think as a club we've kind of struggled to have that connection, haven't we, since Bielsa? Obviously under Bielsa, it all felt like that we're all kind of fighting together and going together in the same direction, and that's been missing for the past few years, obviously, because you've had your likes of Jesse Marsh and Sam Allardyce and Avi Gracia and all that, and
don't depress me, Mike. I forgot about that. Don't depress me.
You know what? Put a spin on it, mate, and just know it's behind us now, isn't it? So it's behind us, on to the future. But I think that's why we've really struggled to kind of connect with managers, connect with players. But I think you're really starting to feel it this season now, aren't you?
100%, mate, yeah. And
definitely.
I think this next slide kind of feeds into that as well. Obviously, Farke, as we all know, has got a touchline ban now for the Sheffield United game on Monday, which is ridiculous. Obviously, he got booked for celebrating that winner now. I know this is a phrase that gets thrown about a lot, but if coaches, and I even just on about Farke here, any coach that celebrates a goal in the 95th, minute to win a game, who gets booked, I just think the game's gone. I think, I think you said off air that he hasn't actually, he's slipped, hasn't he? It isn't like he's probably meant to run onto the pitch. He's just fallen on the pitch. But it's just ridiculous, isn't it, mate?
You just to me, it's like you try to take the passion out of the game and you're going too by the book. Surely there's got to be certain instances where you look at it and common sense prevails and you think
it's not like he's ran over to the Sunderland bench or he's ran into Joe Bellingham's face. You know what I mean?
He's literally gone 7 foot on a pitch, whatever it is, and he slipped and fell over and then he celebrated. But I mean, he slipped as well, unless, like I said earlier on, unless he's booked in for diving. Maybe that's all it could be. But it's stupid.
It does kind of feed into the relationship the fans have got with Farke, though, because I think this is the first instance where I've seen a lot of people defending him and actually getting behind him on something, which again, it isn't. It isn't that big of a deal, really. I wouldn't like to think it'd affect the players that much at Bramall Lane. To be fair, it is still, it's still. I just think the game's going to work out how it will work out, regardless of if he's on touchline or not. Basically,
exactly.
But it is just a bit.
It's not going to make a massive difference.
It's a bit ridiculous, to be fair. But
you know what he should do? He should do a Jose Mourinho when Jose Mourinho hid in that towel basket and they rolled him into the changing room. They should do that. Get him in basket into the changing room.
Obviously now it means that he'll at least be able to contact the bench from Isaac's loft. I hope there's good Wi-Fi up there. With his little earpiece and his Actimel.
Actimel in bulk. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Isaac, if you're watching, mate, Isaac couldn't be with us tonight. As he said, he had work, but seemed a bit dodgy to me. Yeah, that old chestnut.
That old chestnut.
Anyway,
he's up to something. Is that Isaac? Innit? He's up to something.
Is, mate. He is. But if you're watching, Isaac, mate, improve that Wi-Fi because I think he'll need it on Monday.
You, Isaac. Yeah.
So, where shall we go next then? Back to ribbing Sunderland, eh? So,
yeah. Let's get back to it.
This is just a photo, but I found it funny when Mike sent it in. This is obviously when Sunderland won the league at Middlesbrough. Which fair play. It is a derby game for them essentially, isn't it? So I think it was one of the first times they'd won there for like quite a while. I think that's why they made a big deal about it. To be fair, slightly, but still, I mean, shirtless taking the corner flag out, it's a bit much.
The reason I sent this in, Isaac, is because there's been a lot of salty Sunderland fans basically saying, "Oh, look how Leeds are celebrating. They're celebrating like they've won the league."
I was saying, the amount of TikTok comments I've had is ridiculous.
All we did is sing "I Predict a Riot" and got a bit excited. That's like a scene out of frigging Braveheart or something, isn't it? Where they're taking up, exactly, where they're taking over land. I mean, you've literally just won a meaningless game away at Middlesbrough.
3 points.
We've won 3 points. Exactly, 3 points. And I hate this celebration police. It really, really annoys me.
I predict a riot thing. That happens after every home win. It isn't like obviously the game against them, it was more meaningful and it meant a lot more. And I get why they could be looking at it and just thinking, it is only 3 points, which it is, but that it was more than the 3 points, wasn't it, mate? In terms of the season definingness of that game.
Yeah, and I think just the way the game panned out, if you're behind at half time and then you score a 95th minute winner to win the game in a pretty big game to kind of put some real distance between you and the chasing pack, the emotions are going to be running high and you're going to celebrate, not to the extent of where you're looking like you've invaded the beaches in Normandy, but not, it's
going half naked. It's just
the celebration police, the celebration police stuff. It's sign of a salty fan base. Just take your medicine, take your loss and move on. Don't start having a go at us for celebrating. You've been beat fair and square. Move on.
There is one thing I will say, though. It has kind of brought Leeds and Newcastle fans together a lot more because I've had a lot of Newcastle fans in my TikTok comments saying, basically cheering us on. And I actually answered one earlier and I said, have Sunderland fans always been this salty and bitter? Because I've never really noticed it before, but wow.
I got on it today, actually, at work. I got an email from someone who we do work with, and he were a Newcastle fan, and he would ask me a work-related question, and then, he put at bottom of it, nice win Monday, big smiley face, because he's a Newcastle fan, so I think Newcastle fans just love any sort of downfall, any sort of negative result that Sunderland have.
Sunderland just live in the shadows of Newcastle, who actually are a big club, which I will say they are a big club, and Newcastle. But
just to get onto that, Charlie, I've seen a lot of that as well on social media, how Sunderland are basically saying that they're a bigger club than us. I've seen loads of it. So I've seen people asking them to, tell us why they're a big club, basically. And they say more league titles, more this, more that. Number one, they were formed. Last time they won a top flight title were nearly 100 years ago. They were formed 40 years, I think, before us. I mean, I don't understand how fans can boast about titles when even the granddad weren't alive. I just don't get the point of it. For me, I can boast about a title because I were alive and I witnessed it, 1992. I can boast about that. But if you're celebrating something when plague were kicking about, it doesn't it doesn't matter, does it?
I mean, I just think when they're saying stuff like that, it's just bollocks. And they don't even believe that. They're just saying it to try and, and I'm not being funny. When Enzo LUFC walked out and he got announced to the Sunderland crowd, they might say we're an FA Cup game, but I don't give a shit because we got beat by Millwall in FA Cup and there were a full crowd there. So
it was Charlie. It were a sellout against Harrogate Town as well, who were in League
Two. Who were fighting to stay in League Two. They're not like top end. They're scraping the barrel. Now, he walked out and there was no fucker in there in the stadium.
Were there about 16, 17,000 there?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And
that's not the sign of a big club, is it? It's not the sign of a big club.
No.
If you can't fill a stadium out for an FA Cup game, and also when the biggest sign in the Championship's ever seen is there as well, it's going to be unveiled. If you can't turn up for that, the conversation's done. It's finished. You're not a big club.
It's as simple just a lot of shit, mate. And even that game when the last game before the game against us, they beat Luton at home and he scored. And at the end that he scored at, there was loads of empty seats. And that's for a league game, which is, important, so to speak.
Yeah.
And there's hardly anyone there. I just think, just leave them to it. If they really think they're a bigger club, then I want whatever they're smoking. But anyway, so
like I say, if you're celebrating league titles that were before, World War II, it don't. It's
fair
not
enough.
It's not up for it. It's not up for a debate.
You sleep at night, then fair play to you. But
exactly.
So just a few more to get through, but I liked this from our admin.
Loved it. Our admin never misses, does he? Then he never misses.
Unless you don't know the story behind that caption, that is the exact same caption that they wrote after Melier made that howler at the Stadium of Light. So again, they'll have had that bookmarked for this night, and fair play, because as Mike's just said, our admin never misses.
Never misses.
Again, I think we both just found this one hilarious. I mean, Leeds are falling
apart. Yeah.
Is that the song that they were singing after 32 minutes and then ended up losing the game? Is that the one? Yeah, I think that's the one.
That's the one. You'd think they'd learned the lesson, wouldn't you? It's
they're just snide Geordies. They're just Geordies that you order off Wish. But that's what they are.
Team U Geordies, aren't they?
Team U Geordies. Well, that's
exactly what they are.
I kept calling Joe Bellingham Timu Jude.
Little Wish Jude, but go on, mate.
I think there was a point in the game where he made like a misplaced pass, and someone behind me said, that's why Jude's in Madrid and you're a fucking Mackem."
It's a fair comment.
I like that.
It's a fair comment, isn't it? It is a fair comment. But the old Leeds thought, you know what? When we sing it, when we end up winning the game, that's just a thing of beauty, that, isn't it?
It's just cinema. It's pure cinema.
Yeah.
Obviously, I was at the game, and it was just the sense of like pettiness that you feel when you're singing it back to them as well, because you remember all the stuff that they've sung, and I think this seems to be a common theme, especially on TikTok as well, where these Sunderland fans keep writing, "Oh, well, the Elland Road atmosphere, it's a myth. You were quiet until 75th minute." I'm like, I'm sorry, pal. But again, I was there and we were not silent. Yeah, there were points where maybe we weren't singing as much when they were on top of the game in the first half. But to say it's a myth and that we're silent, I said, well, I'm sorry, but it was like a library in your end for the second half, because we didn't hear a note from you. So
that is every single stadium throughout all the leagues. There's going to be points. If you're losing, there's going to be 10 minutes where you're a little bit, apprehensive, a little bit, where you're not like quieting down.
Like if you're losing the game,
there's no stadium in the world that's just jumping about like lunatics for 90 minutes of the game. So it's not a myth. And a lot of this is the only way because they've lost a game. This is the only way that they can buy back at us now. Yeah, salty, very, very salty.
This one again as well. Just the excuses coming out. For those of you, I can barely see that, to be fair. I can't zoom in, unfortunately, but
That's
just about Leeds
that's
and our budget and Enzo LUFC playing out of position. I mean,
the budget thing. Can I just speak about the budget thing for a second, Charlie? Because again, I've seen this over and over and over again. We've got £100 million squad. We've spent loads. You know how much we've spent this season? I think it's about £27 million we've spent this season, which isn't a lot. It sounds a lot, but when you look at when we've sold Archie Gray, we've sold Somerville, and we sold Rutter for over £100 million. So I think we're well within his rights just to spend £20 odd million. These fans, fair, it's so boring listening to it. Yeah, go on, mate.
Sorry to cut you off, mate, but to be fair, the fact that we've spent 27 million on the likes of Tanaka, Bogle, obviously we've got Joe Rothwell, but that was a loan. But who else have we brought him? Isaac Schmidt.
Rodon
on a permanent.
Ramazani.
Ramazani. I mean, we've made some very, very good signings for that value as well. But obviously, I'm kind of just preparing for after we beat Sheffield United, because that's going to be the excuse from a certain ham-faced bastard. Which again, if we beat Sheffield United, Meltdowns next week is going to be even better. Believe me.
It's just going to be a Chris Wilder extravaganza, isn't it? Because he's going to be the saltiest person on earth after that game, because he's been trying his little mind games, hasn't he? He's been trying to say, Leeds at best team.
You don't believe
mate. Alex Ferguson, who could do mind games. You have him at ham face. You don't know how to do mind games. So
does he really think we believe that bullshit? Like, really?
No, we're not even bothered. We aren't even bothered about what he's saying. We just bring it up because we think it's funny. So he's there in his little bubble, thinking he's going to get into manager's head, players' heads, and they just don't give a fuck.
They think we're obsessed with him, but believe me, it's the other way around. Believe me, it is the other way around.
Even when he speaks about us and he tries to be complimentary, you can see the passive aggressiveness in his face, and it's all through gritted teeth, biting his tongue, and it's just don't say no about us, because you just make yourself look even worse.
I have said at various points, obviously, that as long as we finish in that top two, I'm not as bothered about winning the league. But one massive perk of winning the league is that he doesn't.
100%.
But I mean, just
100%.
Like I said on the Only Leeds Bros show the other night, which if you haven't already, guys, go and check that one out, because that was really good.
Good to have them guys on.
If they need any motivation to go and win that game on Monday, just look at Chris Wilder's face, and that should be enough.
Exactly. You know what I always think about when I think about how much I want to beat Chris Wilder? I remember when we beat him. I think it might have been the game, where Patrick Bamford's in Premiership, when Patrick Bamford scored that header right towards end of game. Beautiful cross by Jack Allison. And after the game, Wilder was being interviewed, and Bielsa walked in front of the camera by accident. And Bielsa were like, "Oh, sorry." And his face, it's just one of them faces that you wouldn't get tired of.
Chris Wilder show. Fuck off.
So Chris Wilder, he were pretending that he were okay with it, and then he went, I might slide tackle him. And started laughing. But you could see he were absolutely fuming. He was trying not to be fuming.
Because
he's the biggest baby. Yeah, can't stand him.
And then again, this one's the final one. Again, no text or anything, but let's just look at this man's beautiful face. Dan Neil.
I love it.
Now, the wider photo of that is obviously Largit Ramazani getting in his face at full time, which I loved, by the way.
It was like that one. It would, you know what I thought when it was it made,
come on then.
Are you not entertained?
Well, I zoomed
it looks
in
like
on
he's going to cry, doesn't it?
I had to zoom in on his face because, like you just said there, he does look like he's about to burst into tears. Bless him. And they shared on their Twitter the next day. It was like a quote from him. I don't know if you've seen it. I can't remember what it said specifically, but it was something along the lines of, the fans need to stay, get behind the lads for the rest of this. I'm like, mate, you're not pushing for top two anymore. You're not. That ship has well and truly sailed.
Yeah.
They'll
They're not going to ever be in a position where they're going to challenge top two. Don't get me wrong. I mean,
be playoffs, 100%.
There'll be playoffs, and we're ribbing them here. We're tearing them a new one in this one. But if I could choose a team out of the four that's in the playoffs, I'd choose Sunderland because I do think they're good fans. I do think they play good football, and I do think they probably did. They would be a good addition to the Premier League. I think that's why I think I'd like them to go there. But yeah, they're.
I personally, and again, this could come back to bite me on the arse, but fuck it. I don't even think it's a 3-horse race anymore, to be honest.
No.
I think it's just a case of who wins the league now out of us and Sheffield United, and I think if we win on Monday, I think it'll be us. If they win, they'll only go a point clear, so it would still be in the balance. But I think if we win, it really does lay down that marker. I think, mate, done it.
Yeah, and I think also the chasing pack aren't good enough this season as well. You look at Sunderland. You look at Sunderland, they're going to drop points. You look at Burnley, dull as dishwater to watch. They're going to be drawing games 0-0. They'll draw another 6 or 7 games, I think. And then obviously you look at Blackburn, they'll be nowhere near us. They are nowhere near 20 points behind us. West Brom, again, probably about 20 points behind.
I think we're 25 points clear of 7th.
There you go. So really, when you narrow it down, we've only really, if you're worrying about them, you've got to worry about Burnley and Sunderland, and they've dropped points all season. There've been games that they should have won and they haven't won, and that ain't going to end now. They're going to drop even more points. So I think it could be us and Sheffield United could really, really run away with it over the next few weeks.
And as I've said numerous times, and I really do mean it when I say it, I don't care if we finish second as long as we go up. I really don't. Like I said, the big perk of obviously us winning it is that Chris Wilder doesn't. But
there's bragging rights, isn't there?
Yeah,
there's bragging rights.
If it ends up being them, that's fine. Enough. We've been there. We've won the T-shirt. It's fine. But I do think we'll win it. I really do. I do. But again, I'm trying to not get too overexcited because I know it's Leeds United we're talking about. But I think
it feels different this season, doesn't it, Charlie?
I said it the other night. It just feels completely different to last season. It really does.
It feels like we're more in control of this situation. When season's gone by, we're always kind of, sliding back seat of his pants, basically, to see if we can win a game. It's always must win. Maybe if we win, get so many points, we might get in the top 2. This season, it looks like there's no danger of us dropping out of that top 2. No danger whatsoever. And it just feels more calm or controlled.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason why a lot of Leeds fans, probably myself included, get nervous before games still is because of things that have happened in the past. I remember I was nervous before that Cardiff game of a week, and that ended up being 7-0. I was nervous before
Watford
the Coventry game just because of the Frank Lampard effect and the form they were in.
Watford as well.
Yeah,
I will. Again,
we've battered all these teams. It's mad.
Yeah, before Watford game, I thought, again, just say what you just said. Past experiences. You know what we like in London. We don't win many games in London usually, and just everything that we've been afraid of in seasons gone by, we just keep flying past it, brushing past it like it's nothing this season. It's just everything's just flowing, everything's clicking, and it just feels totally different this season. And I'm going to be very, very. It's very, very bold in what I'm saying, but I've said it all season. We're going up. I think, Charlie. I definitely think we're going up.
Yeah.
I'm going to say, just imagine if it went absolutely tits up. We'd have to crop this itself and put it on Meltdowns because
I think
it would be a massive.
I don't think I'd do a Meltdowns again.
I don't think I'd do a podcast again, mate. If I'm being honest, Charlie.
No, that's a fair point. That is a fair point. But no, I think, like you say, I think the only thing that we could potentially fuck up, if you want to call it that, is maybe not winning the league. But again, I don't care about that as long as we finish second.
Yeah.
And just go up automatically, and we don't have to dick around with playoffs, so to speak.
Yeah,
I really cannot.
You sound like You sounded like our dear departing Angus Kinnear then. I don't know if you want to talk about it now or if you want to talk about it.
We'll briefly have a chat. Obviously,
have a little chat about it.
Yeah,
Shall we start with?
I'm sure that we'll get Isaac's thoughts on our next pod, but we can have a brief discussion about it. For those of you who don't know,
shall we start with Rangers, Charlie? Shall we? What is this?
Yeah.
So it's not just rumours, is it? I've seen news on Sky. I've seen Sky Sports News as well today, basically saying that 49ers Enterprises are in advanced talks with Rangers now for a takeover. So I don't know how that's going to look for us, Charlie. I mean, does that mean? I mean, the obvious, I wouldn't say the obvious one, but the one that's been mentioned most is probably that they sell up completely, make a massive profit on us when we get promoted, probably sell us for between 300 and 400 million to Red Bull. I think it's an option. But then another thing that makes me think that obviously if they get us to Premiership, it becomes even more profitable then. So I don't know which way this one's going to go, but there's definitely some truth in this Rangers link, isn't there, Charlie?
Yeah, and again, it's kind of hard to predict which way it'll go, like how they'll be thinking it through. But as you've said, I think it's a win-win for them, regardless of whatever they choose to do. As you've said, if we do get promoted, they'll make a huge profit. And if it is,
did they buy us for about 170 mil?
Something like that, yeah.
So you think they could pretty much double their investment if they sell us when we go up? Pretty much double it.
Exactly. And if it is Red Bull that comes in, I'm sure the fans will have a certain opinion about that. But again, if they invest heavily and Leeds stay in the Premiership and we play Champions League football in the next 5 to 10 years, then I don't think anyone will care that much. But then there's the other side of the coin where they could maybe just buy a minority stake in Rangers, because again, it's a big club in Scotland. It's a big club in Europe, to be fair, as Rangers.
They're a big club, but Scottish football.
Exactly. But again, if they've got the majority of us in the Premiership, and they've got probably Scotland's biggest club, or it's only them in Celtic, really.
One or two.
I think they'll be making millions from both clubs. So I think it's a win-win regardless of what they do, potentially. But again, I'm sure that will all come out in the wash in the summer. I think the main focus is just to get Leeds United promoted at the minute and then take it from there.
Is it though, Charlie? One thing that stood out for me is the timing of this. Now, do you think it is bad timing considering we're kind of on a promotion push and it sends out a message that they're kind of eyeing up or courting up other clubs? What kind of message do you think that sends to fans? Because me personally, I think, concentrate on Leeds, concentrate on getting us in the Premier League. I don't want to see our owners considering buying other clubs. We need to be kind of their main concern for the next couple of months. So for me, I don't think the timing's great. I don't know if I'm being a little bit too precious about it, but
no,
I don't know what you think, Charlie.
No, I think I agree. Their main focus should be on Leeds, but at the same time, us fans can think like that, but I don't think it'll affect the players and Farke too much. To be fair, I think they'll just go about the business as usual because they can't control that, can they? And it's not like there's a transfer window or anything like that. So even if something did come out, it's not going to affect the squad or anything until summer anyway. So I get what you're saying, and I'm a little bit confused as to why it's coming out now. But in terms of the players and everything and like the job that they've got, I don't think it'll interfere with that too much. But speaking of boardroom level, Angus Kinnear is in the news as well, being linked with a move to be Everton's chief executive, which again, the timing of that story coming out is a bit weird as well. But don't get me wrong, I'm sure he has done good things at Leeds United. I'm sure he has. Even the likes of Orta and Rads did at various points. Obviously, it didn't end well for either of them. But Kinnear has stuck by us, to be fair, and seems to have done a reasonable job. Obviously, people have their opinions on him. The answers that he's given on the square ball interviews that he's done previously have been a little bit. I think you can tell he's been PR trained basically because he didn't give.
It reminds me of a politician, Charlie. I think he just answers them questions.
A bit of a puppet.
Yeah, there's been instances where he's been asked questions and he doesn't really answer it, and he just does a roundabout answer. But
on the other hand, to that, you could say that he has got some balls to go on there and at least face.
Yeah, didn't have to do it.
The square ball are just fans. They're not journalists or anything like that. They are just fans. So. Fair play to him for even just putting himself in that position, in fairness. But, I mean, agree. if Kinnear is to go, mate, thoughts on that?
Again, I think the first thing that kind of jumped out to me is the timing of it all. I think, again, it's a point at the season that's pivotal for us. So the fact that Kinnear's considering leaving, the fact that as owners are considering buying other clubs, I think for me, it just looks like that they look at it as a business, really, and a business opportunity to make money.
That's what football is now.
It is, mate. Especially when you run by Americans, I think they've got no kind of emotional ties to us, have they? It's just the timing for me. But just to go back to Angus Kinnear, I think Everton fans aren't happy, are they? I've seen a lot of Everton fans saying
any Everton fans.
Yeah. So I think a lot Everton fans have got good memories like Leeds fans, I think. And so they're basically saying, isn't Angus Kinnear the one that wanted points deducted from us when those clubs kind of launched that appeal against Everton? Because we were one of the clubs, weren't we? Who sent letters to the FA basically wanting sanctions, wanting points deductions. So Everton fans have said we don't want him because
which fair play to him.
Yeah.
To be fair.
Yeah,
but it is a weird one. I mean, I've never really had a opinion on him either way. I kind of, as you said, football's a business. He isn't a Leeds fan. I think he supports Luton. In fairness, so if he leaves, fine. If the 49ers sell, fine. As long as the next ownership that comes in are rich and they invest in the squad should Leeds get promoted, and as long as they don't make the mistakes that have been made in the past by certain owners, then I won't be too bothered about it. I know that might sound a bit laid back and
totally agree with you.
But
totally agree with you.
As long as it doesn't affect us in a negative way, then it doesn't really matter to me who's at the top of the club. As long as they're investing into the squad and there's no mistakes made like the likes of Ridsdale, Ken Bates, all the classics, then it'll be fine. So
as long as they don't call us Red Bull Leeds.
Oh yeah,
that's all.
As long as it's not Red Bull Arena or Red Bull Leeds, then I'm absolutely fine. But I think we'll leave it there anyway. As we've said, I'm sure those topics will get discussed on future pods when hopefully we've got more information as well.
Yeah, it's going to kind of progress in it as the weeks go by. So
over the next weeks, months,
there's going to be plenty more discussion points around this, I would have thought.
Yeah, so a big thank you to everyone that watches this. This has been a really good one. I've really enjoyed this one, and
me too.
Fingers crossed the next Meltdowns after Sheffield United is even better. But like we said at the beginning, as long as we don't lose that game, I'm all fine with it.
Yeah, we're happy, aren't we?
But I'm sure that we will be back over the weekend as we will do our preview for that big game at Bramall Lane on Monday night. As always, Mike, big thank you for taking time out of your evening to join me. And we will see you over the weekend, guys. And have a good weekend if we don't speak to you before. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.